It's been a while since I've made a proper video, and welcome to my sparkle party. I wanted to make it pretty for you. Anyway, here goes. Today, I'm talking to the part of you who knows that you're meant for more, no matter what else you're achieving. And when I say more, I mean inspiring others, sharing your message, and witnessing your spiritual growth ripple out into the world. And I also want to speak to the part of you that might feel stuck in imposter syndrome. You might be caught in decision making anxiety or patterns that no longer serve you. Maybe you've spent countless hours buried in self help books and mindfulness practices, meditating and journaling until your pen ran dry, pushing yourself to focus, grow, heal, leaning onto your internal guidance systems to release the layers of who you thought you had to be. I have been wanting to talk about this topic for forever now. It's one of those things that just keeps bubbling up in my own life and in so many conversations that I've had with people lately. So today we're going to go deep. We're talking about why you might need an intuitive coach. And I suppose I better introduce myself. I'm Eva, and I'm an energy healer, meditation guide, and intuitive healing coach with a specialization in anxiety disorders. That is a bit of a long way of saying I help coaching clients who are awakened individuals to step into that higher purpose that their true selves know that they have been sent here for. So now that's out of the way, I want to come back to you and your gut feeling that yearns to be achieving alignment between your spiritual spark and your outer life and making a real difference in the world. That part of you that knows you've grown so much, you've done the work, you've journaled your heart out, you've meditated, you've transcended, analyzed every limiting belief that's held you back, and yet you're still here, stuck in this weird place of knowing that there's this huge, expansive, incredible life calling your name and knowing how to step into it, but not quite being able to do it fully due to the pressures of everyday life. And this has a massive impact on your self-esteem and your self-trust, feeling that frustration of like, why am I still here when I've gained so much inner wisdom and self-awareness? You're torn between your awakened self and societal conditioning, feeling the weight of guilt for not doing enough, shame for not being enough, frustration that despite all of your efforts, your life still doesn't fully reflect the person that you're becoming inside, just perennially feeling stuck. I know it. I know the feeling well. The truth is, you're not stuck because of a lack of potential or talent or spiritual awakenedness. You're stuck because you're trying to do this in isolation. Think about it. How many times have you doubted yourself into inaction? How many ideas have you dismissed because what if you fail? What if you're wasting your time? Time is our most finite resource as we get older. What if it should be spent elsewhere? There's only one of me and so many needs that need attending to. We were raised to know that we can handle anything, and that's true, isn't it? Have you ever noticed how much mental and energetic weight you carry to save others from needing to carry it themselves? I have a family to support, children to feed, and I need to keep a roof over my head and various other financial and time-based responsibilities. And I could see that intuitive guidance and inner wisdom needed to give way to other less fulfilling life responsibilities. I've been there. I know exactly how it feels. But the older I get, it feels like everything accelerates. And the gap between the person I knew in my soul that I was capable of becoming and the life that I was actually living, it just felt like it kept getting wider and wider, and I couldn't bridge it. And I could feel myself slipping and my clarity getting weaker. And that dissonance is exhausting. Conventional wisdom says, well, just push harder, work more, hustle your way there, right? And that's the advice we've all grown up hearing. If you feel stuck, it must mean you're not doing enough. But I think we both know how that story goes. I went straight to past experiences and I pushed harder. I added more to my plate. I woke up earlier. I conceded to solutions that didn't feel quite right. But hey, you've got to keep moving, right? And then nothing changed. In fact, things got harder. I've noticed that happening a lot in my 40s. It's like those entrenched patterns kind of rust into place. It was all a symptom of being torn between my awakened self and societal conditioning that below the surface, I was deeply feeling the weight of guilt for not doing enough, shame for not being enough, frustrated that despite my best efforts, life still wasn't fully reflecting the transformative experience and huge spiritual awakening that I'd had. I was like a person split down the middle because the demands of everyday life don't stop ever. I just felt that my personal development was my own responsibility and that life was busy. So I needed to figure out everything solo. And when I think about it, honestly, I probably felt like somehow needing support meant that I was weak or not evolved enough. But what I've come to realize over and over again is that the way forward isn't through more effort, it's through more connection, it's through allowing myself to be supported. I do believe that there is a myth out there of finding the right coach. And I will be honest, in my coaching journey as a coaching client, I have worked with different people. I've worked with a few kinesiologists, some life coaches, a business coach, and I've taken coaching program after coaching program. And I have needed unique methods and solutions for different situations that I found myself in. And the clarity that this unique blend brings to me has helped me no end in moving forward and following my own intuitive guidance. Is everything perfect? No. Working with an intuitive coach didn't solve all of my problems for me. What they did was reflect back my own strength when I couldn't see it. They didn't carry me across the gap, but they held my hand, steadying me as I found my own way across. What I needed was someone who could hold space for my fears while championing my dreams. Someone who walked beside me, helping me bridge the gap between who I was in that particular moment and who I was destined to become. So, maybe now you're wondering, is personal development really a two-person job? And allow me to introduce you to the concept of the body doubling effect. I've researched this a lot in recent years and I really love it. This simple yet powerful phenomenon shows us something remarkable about human connection. When we share physical or energetic space with another person, our ability to focus, persevere, show up for ourselves skyrockets. It's as if the presence of another person pulls us out of our own heads, out of our fears, and into inspired action. And here's where it becomes really exciting. A study for the International Society for Performance Improvement found something groundbreaking. Working with a coach actually increases your chances of success by a staggering 221%. 221%. Why? Because the presence of a coach doesn't just create external accountability, it creates a sense of shared focus. It takes the isolation out of your growth process. Just having someone there makes a huge amount of difference. And I do have an evidence based scientific reason why this is. But first, I'm going to tell you a story. Once upon a time in 2009, I had a baby. It was my first baby, and nothing could ever have prepared me for the life-shaking, fast-track personal growth deep dive into emotional trauma and drain on my well-being that was first-time motherhood. I had no idea what I was doing. None. Zilch. For all my preparation, for all the books I'd read and all the classes that I'd attended, the moment that they placed that tiny, perfect little baby in my arms, it was like the enormity of it all just hit me at once. And I felt untethered, completely overwhelmed. Here I was, responsible for this fragile, squirmy little soul, and suddenly I was very aware of how unprepared I felt. You add sleep deprivation into the mix, and well, there were moments when I thought, what am I doing? Am I even capable of this? Truly, it was a dark place. I had thoughts of of all the career decisions I've made, this has been the worst one and I can't get out of it. Like I would a job. If it was a job, I would have just quit. Desperate. I was completely out of my depth and my intuitive abilities had abandoned me. That's what it felt like at the time. It was a situation where I felt absolutely out of control with no relief, no safe space to gain clarity, and therefore no self-trust. Dark days. And so I lived in Seattle at this time, and we lived in an apartment building. And in America, apartment buildings are sometimes owned by one single company, and they have a manager or superintendent on site. Our superintendent was named Paul, and he was this tall, stiff old man in his 60s. He reminded me a bit of Lurch from the Addams Family, but as a tenant over time, I got to know that he was actually a really kind guy, and he always seemed to have a little bit of wisdom for me tucked into casual conversations when I would go to pay the rent and that sort of thing. Anyway, I'd reported something in our apartment that needed fixing or replacing. I'm not sure what it was, but then I had my baby. So weeks passed, and honestly, I'd completely forgotten about it in the chaos of newborn life. But there was a knock at the door, and it was Paul to check whatever it was. I can't remember. It was almost 16 years ago. That baby's a teenager now. So I let Paul in, and he went to the kitchen to check whatever the repair was. But the thing I noticed was when Paul stepped into my apartment that day, there was a shift. No other way to explain it. For the first time in what felt like days, I wasn't alone in the twilight zone while my husband was at work. Paul didn't need to say anything or do anything. His presence was enough. And I think he picked up on that because after he was done in the kitchen, he said, Do you mind if I sit down for a second? And I was like, sure, go ahead. And he just pulled out a chair at the kitchen table and he sat down and he kind of exhaled like he'd been climbing stairs all day. And I just got on with things, tending to my tiny human. And I noticed that for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel this frantic desperation to do it all perfectly. Paul just had this calm, steady energy about him that was grounding in a way that I didn't know I needed. I'm not even sure if he picked up on something or if his legs were really legitimately playing up, but I just remember the way his presence held space for me. And that's the thing about body doubling. It doesn't need to be grand or complicated. Sometimes simply being there with your spark of consciousness, your grounded energy is enough to remind someone of their strength. And I did promise an evidence-based scientific reason of why spending time body doubling is powerful. And here it is. I believe that body doubling is a macroscopic human scale example of the observer effect. Oh, yeah, science speak. I've included a link to a video about the observer effect below if you want to dive into that more deeply. But let's just say the observer effect suggests that the mere act of being observed can change the behavior of a system. And in the context of body doubling, just having someone nearby while you focus creates a human scale version of the observer effect. When someone shows up as your witness, their presence shifts your energy, your focus, and yes, even your results. And science and spirit agree. When someone observes us, we naturally rise into a higher version of ourselves. And when your coach is deeply intuitive and spiritually connected, this effect amplifies even further. It's not just about accountability anymore, it's about alignment. Their energy grounds you. Their insights illuminate paths that you didn't even think to look for. They help you co-regulate your emotions, moving past fear, self-doubt, and perfectionism with grace. And suddenly, that massive wall between your awakened self and your conditioned self doesn't feel so insurmountable anymore. How I've experienced the observer effect as a client in intuitive life coaching situations. In my own coaching journey as a client, I noticed that their presence and coaching engagement, no matter what unique combination of coaching or healing practices that they were using, was that that was what really gave me the focus that I needed to make a lasting transformation. It was the support, and that was in the presence. All the noise in my head would just quieten down enough for my higher self clarity to come through. And that clarity from presence stopped my overthinking and engaged my intuition to start actually moving towards what I wanted. And that's the magic of working with an intuitive coach. They don't impose their vision on you, they guide you back to your own clarity, your own power. Now, you may be thinking while you're watching this, okay, you're just trying to drum up business for your coaching practice. And yeah, side note, I have linked information on my coaching sessions below this video, but this is really about you recognizing that you deserve support, that this process can feel so much lighter and more aligned when we stop isolating ourselves and believe that we're worthy of working with someone walking this path with us. And more than just that, it is scientifically proven that working with a coach will improve your results. But here's a hard truth that we all want to avoid. We can have all the tools in the world, the mindfulness practices, the vision boards, the routines. But if you're still stuck in intellectualizing your spiritual awakening and seizing your guidance system and not bringing your awakening into somatic awareness on your healing journey, you will only get so far. You'll find your process stays abstract, locked in, swirling around, and never quite making it into your lived experience. Truly transformational coaching engagement doesn't just speak to your mind. The right coach will hold space for your body and your energy too, because healing, growth, and stepping into your highest potential needs to happen on every level. Intellectual understanding is powerful, but embodied action is where everything changes. Have you ever noticed that sometimes, even when you've done all the work, resistance still shows up? Patterns sneak back in, fear wraps its arms around us, and suddenly we're frozen. It's not because you're not doing enough, it's because your body hasn't yet learned that it's safe to step into this expanded version of you. And that's not something that we're meant to tackle alone. So, if the idea of working with an intuitive coach has been tugging at your soul, consider this your nudge. Whether it's me, someone else, or even a trusted friend that you lean on for now, just to practice receiving support, allow yourself to be witnessed in your messy, raw, uncomplicated humanity. When someone holds that space for you to tap into your own intuition and your body starts to feel the safety of their presence, transformation unlocks itself. The fears that you've been carrying don't feel so sharp. The resistance starts to melt, and instead of being at odds with your body and mind, they begin to work together. True coaching engagement is a partnership. It's co regulation, alignment, it's embodiment. A coach becomes not just someone who guides you, but someone who walks with you, whose presence shifts your energy so your nervous system can finally breathe, letting your self awareness rise to the surface. When you offer yourself permission to truly embody this work, to feel the fullness of your growth, not just in your thoughts, but in your whole being, that's when everything shifts. Decisions feel clearer, self doubts quieten down, and your life begins to reflect this truer, brighter version of you. Your worth isn't tied to your accomplishments or perfection or how strong you appear to others. It really doesn't. Allowing yourself to be guided isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's saying to the universe, I am ready. It's you choosing alignment over hustle, collaboration over isolation. It's you deciding that your highest potential deserves the support to unfold fully. You don't have to settle for intellectualizing your growth. I was stuck there for way too long. You can live it, you can feel it, you can breathe it. And with the right amount of focus and guidance, you can make it real. You are meant for more, and you are absolutely worthy of receiving the support that helps you step into it. Your light is already within you. You deserve to be held as you rise into it, and you don't have to do this alone. I think that will do. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your presence. You've got this.